4 foods that will definitely destroy your gut. Your gut not only controls your digestion, but up to 70%, maybe even a bit more, of your immune system. But did you know that many everyday foods slowly but surely destroy it? Most people make these mistakes. Could you be affected by them too? Stay tuned to discover the 4 worst culprits. About 20% of the population are even affected by irritable bowel syndrome. This is a condition that can really significantly affect your quality of life. Our gut and the delicate balance of its microbiome play a central role in our overall health. And in this video, you'll find out which 4 food groups destroy your gut, and why that is, and what you can do about it from now on. So stay tuned until the end, because it gets more interesting with each food. If you continue to consume unhealthy foods, you risk not only digestive problems, but also chronic inflammation and an increased risk of chronic diseases. An unbalanced gut leads to a weakened immune system. This can make you more susceptible to infections, but it can also cause skin problems and even mood swings, up to and including depression. However, if you decide to change your diet for the better after watching this video, amazing changes can happen to you. For example, by giving up unhealthy foods and switching to a nutrient-rich diet, your gut can change significantly in a very short time and regenerate more and restore its natural balance. This strengthens the beneficial bacteria in your microbiome and reduces harmful germs as well as inflammatory processes, which naturally leads to improved digestion. A fiber-rich diet with fresh vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, and fermented products supports the gut flora and promotes nutrient absorption. And that, in turn, strengthens your immune system, increases your energy level, and improves your overall well-being, including clearer skin and a more stable mood. The first food group you should definitely avoid is highly processed foods. So-called industrial food or processed food. Industrial food and highly processed foods are a significant burden on your gut because they are often very low in fiber, but on the other hand, rich in sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial additives. In addition, the manufacturing process creates molecules that are foreign to us humans, which our bodies can't process at all. For example, the lack of fiber is necessary for a truly healthy gut flora because it serves as a food source for the good gut bacteria. Without enough fiber, the balance of the gut flora is disrupted and harmful bacteria multiply, while the beneficial ones decrease, which can lead to digestive problems and chronic inflammation. Another problem is the many different artificial additives such as emulsifiers, colorants, preservatives, and artificial sweeteners, which are found in many processed foods. Many of these additives weaken the important gut barrier and lead to increased permeability, known as leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut syndrome is the condition of a porous intestine. As a result, even more harmful substances and undigested food particles enter the bloodstream and your body, promoting inflammation throughout the entire body. In addition, many industrially processed foods contain refined carbohydrates and sugar, as well as sugar syrup, which in turn promote the growth of these harmful microorganisms in the gut. This can also disrupt the balance of the microbiome and lead to symptoms such as bloating, constipation, and diarrhea. Sugar also promotes the growth of yeast, specifically Candida albicans, which can cause further digestive problems and even systemic infections that affect the whole body. Another risk is the high content of saturated fats and trans fats, which are found in many processed products. And these fats can not only worsen inflammatory processes in the gut and negatively affect the composition of the microbiome, but they are now definitely linked to the development of cancer. And let's not forget that industrially processed foods are often low in natural nutrients. They contain hardly any vitamins unless they are added minerals or secondary plant compounds, which are essential for the regeneration of the intestinal lining and the immune system. A long-term deficiency of these nutrients weakens your gut and makes it more susceptible to all kinds of diseases. And in addition, excessive consumption of such foods can increase gut motility. So it can slow down the movement of the gut and lead to constipation and irregular digestion. In the long term, this can increase the risk of serious conditions such as irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel diseases, or even colon cancer. So my tip is to avoid it as often as you possibly can. The second food or ingredient you absolutely need to cut down on is sugar. If you consume too much sugar, it can also have significant effects on your gut and your body's entire sugar metabolism. Normally, the grape sugar, that is glucose, enters the small intestine after eating and is absorbed relatively quickly in the upper part of the small intestine. As a result, the blood sugar level rises, and the pancreas releases insulin in response to this in order to transport the sugar into the body's cells, especially into the muscle cells, where it is used as a source of energy. So far that sounds good, right? It does. The real problem starts when you regularly consume too much sugar and don't move enough to use up that sugar right away. If you ate sugar and then did some kind of endurance training afterwards, it wouldn't be a problem at all and you could use up the sugar easily and it wouldn't harm you. But if you don't move enough and you have too much sugar, it then gets into the further sections of your intestines where it can cause unpleasant symptoms like bloating and diarrhea. And that's because sugar draws water into the intestines and disrupts the natural balance of digestion. And in addition, the protective layer of the mucous membranes in the intestines is also attacked and destroyed by excessive sugar consumption, making the intestines more susceptible to inflammation and also to infections. Your digestive system becomes weakened overall, and once again, the natural intestinal barrier becomes weaker. And as a result, more and more unwanted substances enter the bloodstream, which in turn can lead to all the well-known lifestyle diseases. But that's not all. Excessive sugar consumption can also cause real bacterial chaos in the gut. Maybe you've heard the term small intestinal bacterial overgrowth before. This is the so-called overgrowth syndrome. It's a condition where bacteria from the large intestine migrate into the small intestine, an area where normally there should be far fewer bacteria. This misplaced bacterial colonization can lead to a real explosion of digestive problems. Even the smallest amounts of sugar can cause these bacteria to produce gases, which can lead to severe bloating, abdominal cramps, and intense diarrhea. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is often difficult to diagnose and is overlooked in many cases, even though, in my opinion, it has already become quite widespread. Another problem with too much sugar is the impairment of sugar metabolism throughout the entire body. Constantly high insulin levels can lead to insulin resistance in the long term, which in turn significantly increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. Over time, the body loses its ability to regulate blood sugar efficiently. And this affects not only the gut, but the entire body. So what can you do to protect your gut and your sugar metabolism? A conscious reduction of sugar consumption is the first step. Instead, focus on complex carbohydrates from whole grains, vegetables, and legumes, which are digested more slowly and help keep blood sugar stable. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, or yogurt, preferably natural plant-based yogurt, can also help strengthen the gut flora and restore balance. The third one is a beverage, namely alcohol. Alcohol negatively affects your gut health in many ways. One of the biggest disadvantages is that, once again, alcohol weakens the gut barrier. And as you've already heard, this barrier protects our inner body from harmful substances. But by consuming alcohol, it becomes more permeable. Another reason to counteract this leaky gut syndrome is to drink less alcohol, or maybe even none at all, to prevent a porous gut. Alcohol also changes the microbiome, meaning your normal gut flora. It promotes the growth of harmful bacteria and, once again, yeast, while the beneficial gut bacteria die off or their function becomes limited. Here's an example of that. The following pathogenic bacteria are particularly affected. I've taken one out as an example, namely Klebsiella pneumonia. Some strains of this bacterium can actually produce alcohol themselves as an endotoxin in the gut and thus put additional strain on the liver. Studies show that people with fatty liver, specifically alcoholic fatty liver, rather than non-alcoholic, often have an overgrowth of these very Klebsiella bacteria. This bacterium is also associated with an increased risk of systemic inflammation and other liver diseases, by the way. Another problem is that alcohol impairs intestinal motility, meaning the intestine's ability to efficiently move food along. And that can lead to digestive disorders and slowed intestinal transit. And in addition, alcohol disrupts nutrient absorption, especially vitamins like the B vitamins and also minerals such as zinc and magnesium, which are essential for the regeneration of the intestinal mucosa. In the long term, excessive alcohol consumption can increase the risk of inflammatory bowel diseases such as irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. The risk of colon cancer also increases because alcohol produces carcinogenic metabolic products such as acetaldehyde. This is a highly toxic substance that damages not only the cells of the intestinal lining. And in addition, alcohol stimulates the production of gastric juice, which can irritate the mucous membranes and promote heartburn, as well as inflammation throughout the digestive tract. Alcohol can also impair the function of the lower esophageal sphincter, causing it to relax rather than close, and as a result, more stomach acid can rise into the esophagus and cause heartburn. The consumption of high-proof alcohol is especially critical as it has a particularly strong impact on the gut flora. My tip: the less alcohol, the better for your health, because alcohol doesn't just have a negative effect on our gut, but on the entire body. The fourth food group: fried foods. Regular consumption of fried foods can have significant negative effects on your gut health, but also on your overall health, especially your cardiovascular system. Studies have shown that eating fried foods is associated with an increased risk of heart disease and strokes. Even consuming as little as 114 grams of fried foods per week, and that's really not much, can significantly increase this risk. One main reason for this is the high content of unhealthy fats and calories in fried foods, which can lead to weight gain and increased cholesterol levels. Additionally, frying at high temperatures produces harmful substances such as trans fats and acrylamide, which promote inflammatory processes in the body and increase the risk of cancer. When it comes to gut health, fried foods can further disrupt the balance of the gut microbiome, that is, the gut flora. The high content of unhealthy fats and the harmful compounds produced during preparation damage the composition of gut bacteria, leading to inflammatory processes in the digestive tract. And in addition, fried foods can affect the production of bile acids, which are important for fat digestion. Additionally, fried foods often contain trans fats and oxidized fats, which put a strain on the liver and can impair its ability to produce bile acids. When bile production is disrupted, fat digestion simply becomes less efficient, which in turn can lead to digestive problems such as bloating, a feeling of fullness, and diarrhea, but possibly also constipation. In addition, a lack of bile acids can further hinder the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, which are A, D, E, and K. And of course, this can lead to nutrient deficiencies in the long term. An imbalance in bile acid production can also increase the risk of gallstones because excess cholesterol can no longer be excreted and therefore becomes more emulsified, which means it may form stones in the gallbladder. Do you know people who eat exactly the way they really shouldn't? Then it makes a lot of sense to share this video because I'm sure they'll be really happy that you sent it to them and they'll be grateful to you.